This is Redwood Empire's Lost Monarch. So what this is, if you ever see it on the shelf, it's going to be a burr rye.
Indeed, which is a mixture of bourbon whiskey and rye whiskey.
Correct. Now, there's not a lot of them on the market. There are
probably because it's hard to execute.
There are a few, yeah. So you're basically taking, barreled rye whiskey, barreled bourbon, and then you're trying to get the perfect blend. I know High West, I think they were the ones that actually coined the term burr rye, I think legally.
Huh.
Yeah.
That makes sense because they had that funny creature.
The jackalope. Yeah, that's the one I've got. So, so they kind of came up with the idea, although I'm sure other distilleries had been doing it for a while.
But even on this, they don't call it a burr rye. They call it a blend of straight whiskeys.
Yeah, and I think that's because they own the rights to the actual.
This bottle is ancient.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you bought those?
No, it's an old one. It's the same with the cast strength.
Yeah.
This is.
That was from their first line.
I think it was their first launch. Yeah.
And this is from the first launch of their original line, which consisted of Pipe Dream, Lost Monarch, and Emerald Giant.
Yeah.
We bought all three of those bottles.
Yes, we did.
Much to the chagrin of your darling wife.
I know. I got problems when it comes to buying whiskey.
Actually got over it.
But yeah, so Redwood Empire. If you hadn't seen the first episode where we did the pipe dream, basically Redwood Empire's they're out of Northern California. When they got started, they pretty much just sourced their whiskey, but so they get it from Kentucky and Indiana, and then do their blends and their maturation up in Northern California, do their blends, get it in the bottles. But like I mentioned on the other video, the cool thing with what Redwood Empire did, sorry, I might have a stroke, is from the rip, they started their own distillation. So they knew what they wanted to do when they got into the whiskey business. If people don't know, when you distill something, you're sitting neutral for 4 to 6, 7, 8 years as you're waiting for your whiskey to mature. So what they were smart about is they sourced their whiskey, but they knew all along they wanted to actually make their own. So as they made their own and let it age, they kept doing what they were doing with their normal line. And then as, was it last year when I bought their Foggy Burl, their malt, that was 100% their own distillate. So their stuff's starting to mature now. They're still doing their blends, but they're using more of their own distillate in the blend. So like when we did the pipe dream, I think I mentioned, that bottle was so old that, I don't know how much of their distillate was in there. Probably not a lot. But nowadays, they've got a lot more of their own distillate in there, right? Because they're trying to keep the, that flavor and that quality. They're trying to keep it true to themselves and to the people like us that enjoy it, right? So this is findable at most liquor stores, at least in Georgetown, Texas. We find this everywhere. Usually a couple times a year.
You'll find a bunch of the cask strength.
You'll find the cask strength version, which is super cool, especially if you can buy both bottles, because this is going to be like a 90 proof, and I think this is 117.
I'll tell you.
Almost 118.
It's 117.2.
Yeah. So it's same distillate. The only difference is this hadn't gotten proof down, and this just had water added to it and got just proof down to the proof that they like, which is another reason I love Redwood Empire, is because they're not proofing it down to the bare minimum at 80.
Now, flashback to when we did that initial 3-way taste test.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of us agreed at the time that the Lost Monarch was our favorite offering.
Yeah.
Pipe Dream we weren't initially all that impressed with, and Emerald Giant was just fine. However, perhaps because we hadn't had many burr ryes at the time, this was the most interesting.
Yeah, when we first got into Redwood Empire, the Pipe Dream there was nothing wrong with it, right? It was good, but when you're comparing it against their burr rye and against their, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that rye, the Emerald Giants, it's a 95.5 rye, just straight out of MGP.
Yes.
So it's very spearminty and those types of notes, where this one, even at 90 proof, just when we did our little taste test years ago, just was so much more complex and interesting, even at 90 proof. Now this is the cask strength that we poured.
Yes.
Because I'm running super low on that.
But to preserve every last drop of that ancient bottle.
Yeah, I mean that's gotta be 8-10 years old.
Just about.
I mean it's crazy. But this one, when you smell it, you still get a lot of the brown sugar, a lot of the bourbony flavors. If I remember right, you get a little bit extra rye.
A lot of rye spice.
Yeah, I was gonna say spearmint too. Yeah, which is interesting. Let's give it a shot. Swallow.
I've been having a lot of gin lately.
Mm-hmm.
I get more of a juniper herbal sort of note going on. Not exactly juniper, but it.
Yeah. Well, that's from the rye spice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an earthy note.
Yeah.
But it's not as pronounced. It's not like in a 95.5 rye.
Right. Well, because it's basically it's cut with bourbon.
Yeah, it's tampered down with bourbon flavors.
But what I love about that is that rye, that extra barreled rye, not just the rye spice, but the spearmint does come through on that, which is really wild, especially.
It's very sharp.
Yeah, but and that's what I love about burr ryes. And some people don't like them. I don't know why.
Which makes sense. They're weird.
Yeah, but some people don't like rye whiskey either. And I'm like, okay, but these are super fun just because it's like the best of both worlds, right? You got all the sweetness and the brown sugar and the caramel from the bourbon, but then you got the mintiness from that 95.5 rye, which is to me like having like a creme brulee with like a piece of mint on it, right? Like they work together. Like it's really good stuff. And I just love what they do. Now, full disclosure, I think these are price wise are going to be in the 30-ish, mid $30 range. You do step up in price when you.
What is it? Double?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's. Gosh, I don't want to misquote, but I think it's a $60 to $70-ish bottle. Now, to be fair, as long as you don't, buy it and just, drink it in a week.
You can make it last.
Then you can make it last, and then you said if you can find both bottles, which, like I said, this pretty much sits on the shelves in the state of Texas. So we always have this. Yeah, this is a little harder to find, but depending on the market you're in, you will see. I definitely saw more last year. Like we would get a case or two in, and they would be around for a few months just because of the price bump, right? But for me, I understand if you're buying $30 bottles and you see the same thing at cask strength for double, and you're like, that's too rich for my blood. And I understand that, especially in this economy. Hopefully it's going to get better, or we'll have more money in our pockets so we can do more fun stuff like this. But to get it at cask strength is it's so cool to be able to do like a comparison, just to see what proof can do, right? Like that's the
which is really saying what water can do.
Correct. So 90 is a great entry point for proof, in my opinion. 117, if that's too hot for you and you see it, you can still water it down a little bit if you'd like. But in this day and age, 117 is not that bad. Not when you've got a lot of offerings coming in at 120. You get some of the Jack.
A lot of offerings are coming in hot.
You get you get the Jack Daniel's barrel proof stuff that can be anywhere from 120 to 140.
Don't threaten me with a good side.
Yeah, that's a good time. But yeah, so the burr ryes, if you've never had them, are great. Like I said, just one sip, and my brain went right to like brown sugar and spearmint, right? Yeah, not on the nose. It's a little the spearmint's a little subdued, right? But on the palate, yep, caramel, brown sugar, vanilla. But I love what the rye does to it, where you get that spearmintiness, and you know, and it drinks a little hotter, in my opinion. Well, yeah, because of the rye spice, it should drink a little warmer than 117, but it's not. It's perfectly balanced. Like the flavors that play together play real nice. It's not like it's just a big punch up front of one flavor and a big punch of something else on the back of the palate. They mingle so well together, that yeah, it's just super cool, especially if you can find both bottles to just sit down one day, even if you don't take notes and be nerdy like I am sometimes, you know, put the spectacles on and get my notepad and try to pick everything apart. But this would be cool to do with just your buddies as well, right?
Especially at parties.
Yeah, because you can sit down, especially if you have even just a little bit of whiskey knowledge, right? And understand that, you know, you go to a party or go to your buddy's place and you're like, oh, this is a burr rye. And they're like, well, what's a burr rye? And then you can explain, well, it's bourbon mixed with rye whiskey, and let's taste it. You know, let's see what it tastes like, and try the 90 proof version. And then when you find the cask strength version, try the cask strength version. And then you just have a lot of fun with it.